are here to heal and understand, that then gets converted into wisdom, so we can align with our own soul self, is what I do to support individuals to expand their intuition so they can clear all the negative, what's been positioned as negative,
right,
but really is a gift, to clear all of that so we can really be aligned with our soul self to heal karmic intergenerational trauma and future trauma pathways for all the deliciousness that we have waiting for us to unfold.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. You've got to lock the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. Or if you're watching on YouTube, then you know that bell down below. You tap that bell, ding, 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 and you are connected to all good things audacious related. Now, there's this thing called life that every single one of us know a lot about. It's a journey littered with a collection of experiences that shape and mold us into the individuals we are today. Now, depending on our viewpoint, this thing can be as beautiful as we want it to be. And other times it can't. It just depends how you choose to see it. I've got Naranjan Nota joining me on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. And Naranjan is a spiritual guide, mentor, and teacher who helps individuals identify how others' opinions and judgments may deter you from, meeting your goal, both personally and professionally, on this journey, on this thing called life. We had a delightful conversation about our experiences, the process of letting go, and the significance of us stepping into our own personal power. It really was a great convo that I think you'll all enjoy. So without any further ado, here's Naranjan Nota. Good day, Naranjan. Thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's such a pleasure to sit down and chat with you like this.
Thank you for having me, Audley. I appreciate you taking time and for us to delve into a conversation of let's see what happens.
That's the best way. I like those are the best conversations. Let's see what happens. You're right. We spend so much time on this podcast talking about the spirit of audaciousness and how we live our best audacious lives ever, and the things that we need to do as individuals and to put ourselves out there and be bold and do all the things we're supposed to. Having said that, there's this thing called life that sometimes gets in the way and knocks us off our course and takes us off our trail and makes things a lot more challenging than we would care to. I would argue that perhaps it's the better way because it makes us tougher and stronger, and easy is not as fun, but nonetheless, painful isn't nice. And so I know you spend a lot of time in helping people navigate this world and life. And so perhaps as a starting point, Naranjan, I'd get you to talk about the work that you do with individuals.
Absolutely. I support individuals to clear their emotional clutter. So align with their soul self. As you've shared earlier, this thing called life kind of gets in the way of perhaps for us to fully embody the joy, the peace, and the harmonious peace of living life. These difficult conversations, relationships, and experiences that, from my perspective, are all derived from a karmic experience that we are here to heal and understand, that then gets converted into wisdom, So we can align with our own soul self is what I do to support individuals to expand their intuition so they can clear all the negative, what's been positioned as negative,
Right.
but really is a gift, to clear all of that so we can really be aligned with our soul self to heal karmic intergenerational trauma and future trauma pathways for all the deliciousness that we have waiting for us to unfold, is the long-winded answer kind of I give you for that.
No, I love that as a starting point, because especially when we start talking about the wisdom and the gift in, the gift in those periods of adversity or those challenges where we know it's good for us, we just don't like it in the moment. And I think sometimes it's a matter of just slowing down. Acceptance is the word that comes to mind for me, right? Accepting what's happening to you and then taking and searching for the wisdom as you speak of. It's still hard though, isn't it?
Absolutely. But if it was easy, then would we really enjoy the fruits of the labor from the outcome of it? Maybe not.
So then maybe as a starting point, we could talk about some strategies that can help people, maybe not make it easier, but make it more acceptable, perhaps. What might you suggest? There's a few things that people can do.
One of the perspectives that I often share with individuals is to recognize we're here for something more.
Okay.
We got dropped onto this planet as human beings carrying this soul and this huge baggage of experiences called life. And if we look at life from the perspective of there's more to it than go to work, come home, have children, get old, be caregivers, and die. And if we can move away from this very third dimensional way of living life of, I want more, I got to keep up with the Joneses, rather than what is truly the relationships I have with these people, places, and things, and unwrap that rather than the thing or the person being the thing. It's the space in between is what we need to unravel, which is the nuggets of wisdom that we get to relish in. And that's how we evolve as a soul, is by unwrapping that. It's not the other person's responsibility, it's ours.
Yeah. So you touched on really a couple of things there, but I want to start with the comparison aspect, right? It's very, very easy, as you said, keep up with the Joneses and look across the street and see what they have versus what I'm at. And I think there's a part of it, and probably get you to comment on, but there's a part of this where it's a recognition that, my path is my path and yours is yours. And we have our own, we're own individuals, our own unique direction. And because of that, it doesn't make sense comparing one to the other because there's two different paths that we're on.
That's right. It can all look the same. We all grow up, we go to school, we go to college, we may go to university, whatever. It may look the same, but you sitting in the class next to me is your senses are going to pick up very different cues than what my senses are, even though we're sat next to each other.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yes. It's funny, using that illustration, I remember a few years ago, bumping into a childhood friend who in grade school. So I hadn't seen him for many years. And when I think back, so when I saw him, I think back to that time. In my view, he seemed like one of the top students. Like I guess I was comparing to myself, and he seemed extremely bright and had all the answers and just seemed like one of the top students. And then fast forward years later, I look at where he was in life, and it wouldn't have been lined up with where at least where he started. And again, so this touches on the whole, we're on our own individual path, because it was actually quite eye-opening for me. because it's not where I saw him isn't where I thought he would have ended up. And so I think when we talk about the comparisons, that's some of the things that we need to be mindful of.
Absolutely. Well, it also stems from a place of judgment and an opinion that we have. We judge other people based on he was at the top of his class during school, so therefore he's going to be at the top of his class for the rest of his life.
Right.
Wrong answer. Who embedded that into our belief systems?
Yeah. And you know, and the other part was I've got no idea what challenges he's had to endure, what he's had to face. Perhaps what I thought of him, he was on the way there, but something knocked him off course. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. And that's why, it's right. my lane is my lane, yours is yours. And so as you were sort of talking about, that was the first thing. I remember that example vividly. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Who knows where people end up?
That's right. So in the same token, while we're in a place of judging other people from that, we also need to look in the mirror at our own life and say, am I judging myself from being in high school, for maybe being in a place that I had kind of projected later on in life? As we do this ultimate comparison, it's happening innately,
right? Because
we're taught to do that as children.
Yes, absolutely. I wonder if you can talk about the power of our individual energy that we carry. We all have it, right? There's all right, and it's energy it's everywhere. But our energies sort of help guide and direct us as well, don't they?
Absolutely, yes. Our intuition, whether it's developed or not, because we all have it. That beautiful parking spot, or just that knowing of that relationship's going to work, or this job's going to work, or I feel like I've seen you before, so therefore it's going to be a good, all of that is your intuition. And it's that what truly guides us in our path in life. And it's up to us to develop it or tame it down and not listen to it. So that is the element of the energy that we bring to the table.
Let's talk about intuition a bit more, because for many it's that sort of that inkling feeling something's happening. Can you sort of expand further on what intuition does for us and what it means to us?
Intuition is that beautiful little whisper in your mind's eye or in your heart, that beautiful little gentle loving direction. It might be a little message. It might be saying, no, actually take left as you're driving. Don't go right. But it's quiet and it's soft and it's very gentle. And it can often get drowned out by the ego mind going, no, I'm telling you to go this way. You need to go this way. And it's coming in really loud and very forceful. But the intuition is much more gentle.
Right.
So it's there for all of us. But it's up to us to be able to recognize when is the ego kicking into place and when is the intuition trying to tell us something. And that is, I don't want to say potentially a battle for many, for us to say, okay, ego, you have your place, because it's not a bad thing. We all need the ego. And intuition, I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Right.
So let's tune this one up and let's dial that one down a little.
And so that exercise has to be challenging, the dialing up and dialing down of one or the other. Because one is really loud, as you said, right? It's loud and clear, and it tells you this is what it is. And the softer, quieter, gentle, milder side is like, here's what's up, and that's it.
That's right.
What's the dialing up, dialing down process look like?
Removing all of these beautiful things that we call distractions.
Yes.
The pings and the dings and the noises and all of those things that come up on our phone, our grocery list, our argument with the spouse, or whatever that looks like, to be able to remove away from looking outwards. Because we go through our entire life looking outwards. I got to do this for that person. I got to do that for this one. And I've got to do this checklist. And we're constantly looking outwards. So dialing into your intuition and being an observer is looking inwards.
Right.
Is directing your focus and attention inwards. Okay, what am I feeling? What is my heart saying? Is there a heaviness on my heart? What's my mind telling me to do? It's the monkey mind. They call it the monkey mind for a reason, right? So I see this and I see it doing its thing, but if I just observe it, where is it going to go?
Right.
As I've often said in conversations, especially around intuition and the mind, is we can be sitting on the couch having a cup of tea, in my case, and I've already been around the world 5 times in a matter of 10 minutes. Because this is what the monkey mind does.
Takes you places.
Totally.
Whether you want to or not.
Right? So if we just observe it and go, okay, I see you. You just stay right there, but I want to dial into this of what I'm feeling.
Right.
What does that sensation on my heart tell me? What does my gut tell me? What is the weight on my shoulders telling me? So really coming back into your body, because we have this constant struggle of being out of the body, of going away, and our attention being external. What's happening over there? Why are they doing this? Who's that relation? All these other things externally. So bring your awareness back into your physical body and remember what it feels like, because we live here all of our life, right? You must relate.
I do. I mean, listen, our minds, they take us places, right? It just goes quickly and fast and often. So you talk about around the world, right? Like that monkey mind will take you there. And it's I like the exercise of sort of stepping back and like acknowledging it and saying, okay, treating it like it's an outside of you almost, right? Like what I do sometimes is I actually refer to it like almost treat like it's an individual. Right. And so something will happen and I'll go, okay, bro, just take it easy. Right. And I'll talk to it as if it's an outside person, knowing that if allowed to roam free and do what it wants, it'll create chaos and havoc. And so, I mean, I've let you know my mind a little bit how I think, and but it's I find it's a tactic that's useful for me. But I do like this. So I hear you talk about, almost being outside of yourself, seeing it and saying, hold on. I think it's a really, really good tactic.
And it is. Well, when we look at what a thought is, I'm going to go a little bit deeper here, Aubrey.
Sure, let's go.
It's, what is a thought? A thought is a combination of experiences that are trying to get the attention of the I.
Okay.
So this monkey mind is latching onto all of these things called thoughts. From what you heard in the news yesterday, what you read in the magazine, to what taught you in school, and something that might be embedded as a value or a belief system from your parents or caregivers, all the way back to other lifetimes that you may have had that have been brought forward in this incarnation. They are all elements of thought, from the conscious mind, subconscious mind, to the unconscious mind.
Gotcha.
The monkey mind comes into play and starts, it's like confetti. All of these thoughts are just dancing around in our mind. But if we separate that, because we often think we are our thoughts, but we are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are aspects of the I, but we're not it. We're not really this body. We live in this body, but we're not really our thoughts.
Right. Interesting, that distinction between the two. And I think once you frame it, it's almost a way of, once you reframe it and see it differently, then it's your approach is almost different too, and how you approach things now too, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's all about perspective, right? So you're sitting in your seat in class, I'm sitting in my seat in class. And now we have an observer. So there's a third seat.
Yes.
And the observer is watching this play called life. and how you're interacting with it and how I'm interacting it, and then everybody else that's on the scene that we have decided to come to bring into this play called family. Spouse, partners, siblings, parents, grandparents, children.
Yes.
We bring them all in onto the stage and we do this song and dance, for the lack of better terms, called life.
Right, right. Naranjan, how did you land on this field of work? I'm curious how you got started.
I landed on it through my own life experiences.
Okay.
We've all had them. We all will continue to have them.
Mhm.
I chose to unravel them in a mysticism, in an esoteric, in a unconventional way. I tried the conventional way of life, of seeking resolve in all parts of my life. I'm not the uncommon one here. We've all had troubles and challenging experiences in life. I've had my fair share just as you've had yours, so that doesn't really separate us. The separation is I tried the traditional route from my health. So I had some health challenges, to relationship challenges, to work challenges and career, normal stuff, I would say, that we've all signed on the dotted line to have when we come here.
Mm-hmm.
I tried that route. It didn't work. Innately, I leaned into my curiosity. I've had this curiosity of the esoteric and the astrology and the mystic world and the unconscious, higher conscious world, probably since I was like 15, 16, which was a long time ago. And so I came from that. It's always been there. And then I thought, as it unraveled into curious conversations and teachings and lessons and books and mentors, I got to the point of seeing that the processes in which I have used and the principles that I've engaged in my own life, because I live it, breathe it myself, and I shared it with others, and they've recognized that it actually works for them.
Right. The value in sharing your experiences. I've oftentimes said that there's, we can go through an experience and we can get through, and whether we get through it or not, or whatever, however the outcome is, there's still something, the wisdom, right? You talk about the wisdom. So the wisdom is there. And the question now is, what do we do with that wisdom? Do we put it in our pocket and keep it for a rainy day? Or I say, hey, Naranjan, look what I have. These are my experiences. This is what I had done, right? And so, and the latter to me is, I mean, heck, the whole reason why I do this podcast, because you can share, and why I like that is then it creates the ripples, and then all of a sudden it's spread, and now everyone's sharing their experiences and helping and supporting one another, and the world that we're creating now is just wonderful.
That's right. Absolutely. And we get the opportunity to do that. We get the opportunity because not everybody wants to engage with it.
Yes.
But we get to do that. And with that shared wisdom comes another seat on that at the table in that lecture. And the more seats we have at the table in that lecture, the more awareness we have, the deeper the expansion of consciousness, because when you're aware, you expand your horizon of consciousness.
Yes.
And the deeper we expand that, the higher we can go. Because just as you and I, we went to school, we know 1 + 1 = 2. So we can elevate. And when we do that on a global level, it expands the consciousness of the collective. And that then in turn gives us the opportunity to rise all boats together in the tide, if I got that analogy right.
A process where the growth and the development takes place. For some people, the process of change isn't an easy thing. And so if there's something that we can do to assist with that, to help with those boats rise, then I think, then that's what we should be doing. Absolutely.
But in the same token, not everybody's wanting to sit in that boat.
Yes.
Some people are ready to sit at the beach. Right? They just want to sit there and lay on the sunbed and sip their drink, and that's fine too. I'm not here to judge anybody on this journey.
Right.
But what we know is when we're all in the boats and all tides and all boats rise together, it's the sweeter journey because we release and let go of the energetic and the physical clutter that we carry around with us, which are bigger lessons that we are supposed to learn.
Right.
In this life.
The part around those choosing to get in the boat or not, again, I think that goes right back to the beginning of the conversation. We talked about the path that we're on, right? And so if my path leads me to climb into the boat, then that's where it is. If my path still has me on the beach taking in the sun rays, so then that's fine too. That's our own individual choices that we make for each other. And I think the important piece in what you said, which is important to highlight and underscore, is that we can't judge. We just can't judge at all.
We're not in a position. But one thing also that I've recognized, often the individuals who are sitting at the beach, they stay in there because there is an undercurrent level of fear to take that one step out into the boat. We've all been there, where we've made big, courageous, bold decisions in life, good, bad, and ugly.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of courage, but there's a lot of fear there. But so my quest and part of my life purpose, if you will, is to lean into those individuals and say, I've got you. I'm holding space for you because this is what I'm here to do, and support you on that journey to look at that fear and transform that fear into love for yourself. Because it's doable.
That's where it starts.
That's where it starts.
That's exactly where it starts. And do you primarily work with a certain group of individuals, or is it a women or men or professionals, or what would anyone?
I work with individuals who are ready for the deep dive to really roll up their sleeves, because I do go very deep in undercurrent to the root cause of the issues and challenges that show up, because it's not going to be just your life. We're going to be expanding out to your parents, your grandparents, and your ancestors. All of those individuals and those souls are going to get healing. So typically, what I've seen are individuals who have gone through therapy, like traditional therapy, and now in a position that they want more, they want to delve a little deeper and understand the energy and the spirituality, consciousness element of it. Because we can talk and we can gain an element of understanding. Therapy has its space, but now you want to unravel deeper. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Yeah.
The unraveling process, I can imagine, is just eye-opening on so many levels in terms of kind of understanding, where you are as an individual, almost like creating an awareness. Like, so for example, I use an analogy that I've used where you come into a room, and this is how I envision what awareness is you come into a dark room and you turn on the lights, and then all of a sudden you see the furniture and the chairs. Well, the light didn't put them there. They were always there. The light just made them visible to you, right?
That's right.
And so that's essentially how I envision awareness. And so once you have an awareness of what's there, we can decide whether or not we want to move around the furniture, right? But we can't do that until we actually see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that analogy. So I'm going to add to that my process. So you've gone to therapy, you've walked into the room and you see the light, you see the table, you see the chair, sofa, right? So that's the light switched on. When you come to work with me, now we are looking underneath the sofa. Now we are potentially looking on top of the shelf to see how much dust there really is on that shelf. And really looking at the finer details, because there's a connection to everything. So if we move the sofa, therefore we have to move the rug. We have to move the rug, therefore we need to move the coffee table. And all of those pieces are interconnected because this is part of life.
I love you saying the interconnectedness, because oftentimes individuals will think, well, there's an isolated incident, it just happened, right? And there is a connection to something somewhere along the line, and it's a matter of the work that you talked about, figuring what that is. That can be a long and difficult process potentially, can it be?
It can be, but it's up to your own receptivity of being humble enough to say, yeah, I might have wronged a few people, but I know I've been wrong too.
Right.
So, but we're not in a position, and when our purpose isn't to blame anybody else nor blame ourselves, is to recognize, okay, this has happened. What was the bigger learning from it?
Right. As I say, that goes back to the wisdom thing, right? Get it, what gaining the learning is. So and for me, Naranjan, that's, I always go right back to that. Like, what am I gaining from this experience? And every experience does give us something. And I don't want to, dishonor or show dishonor to what people are experiencing, right? Like, if something happens in the moment, it hurts, it's painful, and the last thing you want to hear is, oh, there's a lesson for you to learn. Like, I want my pain to be dealt with and acknowledged and move past that. And then afterwards, I'll take time to figure out what the lesson is, right? But it's still going from point A to point B. That could be a short hop, or it could be a cavernous leap. And that's where it depends on where each individual is at.
And that is indicative of the relationship you have with yourself. So the ego, the ego's there, the intuition is there, and we're observing ourselves, the third person, right?
Yep.
So if I have a good relationship with myself, that pain process of incident happened, pain, physical pain, I'm over it. That bit in between is going to be the bigger telltale signs of my relationship with myself. If I don't have a good relationship with myself, that process in between is going to be very painful.
When I tie it back into the podcast, where we talk so much about the importance of taking that first step, and it requires a level of boldness, it requires a level of audacity, but also recognizing that it's a necessary step for us to achieve our own individual greatness. It's still a step, and if a step is coming to you directly, for example, and do that deep work dive, then it's still a step nonetheless. How much of your work is sort of meeting people where they're at, or like, so you want them to come to you, but is there a point where you'd have to some nudging, I guess, or I guess it's not really as effective if you've got to do the pulling and them not stepping into themselves?
I meet people where they're at. So some people are a little bit more sheepish in terms of what's really involved with this. I'm a little scared.
Right.
So that is up to them. There's never a position where I force people to do this, because I know there's work involved from their standpoint. So as a client, they come in and they have to do the work. I can support them, I guide them, I work with them on a soul level. Okay. So as an energetic piece, I work with them on a soul level. So I connect with them and I support them. So it creates an innate safe place for them to be vulnerable and unravel some of those really painful experiences that they may remember at that moment. Or as we go through the process, the memories may come online because we've just cleared a whole bunch of emotional clutter and we've created some space. Yes. So there's those pieces in between. But ultimately, I've had clients who've come in fresh out of therapy and have very little relationship with the energy world. And I've also had clients who have supported individuals and done energy work for their clients. So they already have a practice. So they might be considered light workers, energy healers, teachers, yogis, and they're in that space, but they need a deeper healing. Because one thing we know for sure, when we work with individuals on their pain, it can unravel some of their own pain if they haven't done their work. And this is where I come in to support individuals to really do their work so they can be the best of who they want to be and ripple that out to their universe.
I love even just the idea of decluttering. I just really you think of going through the process of spring cleaning, and it's time to declutter, and it's time to get stuff that doesn't serve you or things that are getting in your way of being your audacious self. And so when we can do that, it's almost like look, I remember one time cleaning out my garage, and when I cleaned it out and got all the junk out, I looked back and said, wow, like this is a different place. And so I would imagine when you're working with clients, there's some satisfaction or reward you can help people get to that place.
Absolutely. In the same token, as you look out at the things that you'd put to the curb to let go of, that in itself is a process.
Okay.
Because now there might be an emotional attachment, or you might just want to rid it because it reminds you of that person and you don't longer want to be reminded of that person. That in itself is something that needs to be resolved.
Right.
Because we can't just do a clean sweep with zero emotion to things.
Right.
So that in itself needs to be resolved. And once that's resolved, then we create space for the intuition to come online a little bit more and a little bit deeper. Right.
Great. I actually didn't think about the aspect of having an emotional attachment to things, and we do, right? We all have those things that we connect with, right? But when you're thinking about the cleaning out process, just get it out, get it out, and some can do that. I'm sure there are some that can do that, but others it's a bit more challenging and difficult.
That's right. But on both spectrums, I still ask those deep questions. So for those who like, just get rid of it, just get it out of my space.
Yep.
There's an energy behind that. There's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of something that needs to be unraveled of why does it need to go so quickly?
Right. Gotcha. This is so awesome. I think this is such the more work must be rewarding. What's the best part of what you get to do?
Oh my gosh, so much there. The best part is seeing individuals really step into their power and step into their gifts of, you know what, I want to do something different with my life now. Or I will see individuals have deeper and better relationships with their spouse, partners, family members, parents, and their children. The relationships are so much more richer. The time spent together is so much more quality, and being really present and honoring another person. And what we know for sure is hopefully when we're in a position of honoring somebody else, they honor us back.
Right.
So I think those are all gifts. Also the gift of the healing of this beautiful consciousness that we live on called Mother Earth.
Yes.
Because she's a living, breathing consciousness. So all the pain and suffering that we walk in with, we get to help her clear it out from her, which therefore then leaves a clearer path for our ancestors and our future generations. So the work that you may do, or individual clients that I have had who are parents, grandparents, they're now clearing a clearer path for their future generations, that they don't have to go through what they have just witnessed in their own life.
Right.
Those are the bigger rewarding pieces.
The idea of helping someone step into their power, but again, the piece I always kind of go back to is you step into their power, and then the impacts it can have on the relationships around them. Right. That's right. Right. Because then because now you have the potential to impact a whole generation. Right. Because and then that generation, and so on and so on and so forth. And so if you can help people get to that point, they get there and they can, influence the relationships with their spouse or partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, children, whatever. It just grows. And so that part to me is really exciting, and the piece I love a lot. So Naranjan, I do thank you for this. This has been such a wonderful chat, and I really appreciate the insights that you offered up. For listeners who want to learn more about you or the work that you do, where can we send them?
we can send them to my website, which is called brightshininglight.com. I'd invite them to book a free consult. We can unravel and see if you're ready and see if I'm the right fit, because I may not be the right fit. And that's okay too.
Yeah. I even do like the fact that you say seeing if you're ready, because again, that's you as the individual you can't make someone do it. They have to want to do it if they want to do the process justice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This has been such a wonderful chat. Narajan, thank you so much for spending the time today here with me on the podcast, and congratulations on the work you're doing, and keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show.
Back we are on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Naranjan for being here and opening up our perspective on this thing called life. I really appreciated hearing about that process of decluttering our lives and why it's so important to let go of the emotional baggage that keeps us bogged down. So again, Naranjan, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being here, and congratulations on all the great work that you're doing. There were a lot of great nuggets of insight when I reflect on my conversation I had with Naranjan. I really appreciated so much of what she had to say, but if there's just one thing that I would take from our chat, it would have to be this. As humans, we often accumulate emotional clutter, the buildup of feelings, thoughts, and memories that we hold on to. Whether it's consciously or subconsciously, it does in fact happen. Now, just like our physical clutter, emotional clutter can hold us back and bog us down and prevent us from living our best, audacious lives. In fact, cleaning emotional clutter is just as important as decluttering the physical environment. And here are a few reasons why we need to practice this on a regular basis. It frees up mental energy. When we hold on to negative emotions like resentment or anger, we spend a lot of our mental energy rehashing past events and trying to justify our feelings. Letting go of emotional clutter frees up mental space and allows us to focus on the present and the future. It improves relationships. Holding on to emotional clutter like grudges or unresolved conflicts can damage our relationships with family and friends. Letting go of negative emotions can help us communicate more effectively and build deeper, more fulfilling relationships. And then lastly, it reduces stress. Holding on to emotional clutter can create a lot of stress and anxiety in our lives. And so by decluttering our emotions, we can reduce that stress that's bogging us and keeping us back and create a more peaceful state of mind. Cleaning emotional clutter is just as important, like I said, as cleaning the physical environment. It frees up mental energy, it definitely improves relationships, and it reduces stress. By identifying that emotional clutter, practicing forgiveness, talking it out, and taking action, we can create a much more peaceful and fulfilling state for ourselves. And that will set us up to live our best, audacious lives we possibly can. We've come to the end of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, I send my thanks and appreciation to all those lovers of Audaciousness. I appreciate your tremendous ongoing support. It is so much appreciated. You're the reason why this podcast continues to flourish and grow and evolve. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.